You ever finish playing a game or watching a show that everyone told you was bad and think to yourself, that wasn't really that bad? This rarely happens to me because what people tell me is good usually turns out to be shit, and the things people tell me that are bad turn out to be worse. But I saw K-On! And I liked it. For years, all I heard from most people was that K-On! Was boring and vapid shit, and this was a narrative that I think even I fell into, but after having finished the series, it's a mindset that I regret having. To be clear, I don't think K-On! Is a masterpiece or anything like that. I'm still having trouble putting my thoughts together for a final rating, but hopefully by the end of this video, I can piece them all together.
どうだった？なんていうか、すごく言葉にしにくいんだけど、あんまりうまくないですね。バッサリだ。でもなんだかすっごく楽しそうでした。私、この部に入部します。
For those of you who don't know, what is K-On!? K-On! Is an anime that aired back in 2009 based around a girl named Yui Hirasawa who joins the light music club in her school with fellow students Ritsu Tainaka, Sumigi Kotobuki, and Mio Akiyama. It's a comedic slice of life and really seems to have set off the moe craze we now see in mainstream anime. As such, it's a pretty polarizing show. For what it's worth, I think the flack this series gets for this is unwarranted, as I don't think we can really blame a series for inspiring copycats that didn't understand or didn't care what the original show was going for, and were only released to pander and exploit its most basic elements. In the same vein, I think criticizing K-On! For a reliance on its visuals is a tad hypocritical considering all the other shows that do this and are praised for the exact same thing and are widely more accepted. But that's a topic for another video. Back to K-On!, as I said, it's a series that I actually ended up liking. I think it's funny, genuine, and put together competently enough to where, despite being slice of life, it doesn't feel like disjointed nonsense. K-On!'s biggest strength is easily the focus it puts on its characters. I didn't think that the main cast was interchangeable at any point. Over time, they had clearly defined characters and motivations. Yui is an airhead, but very outgoing. Ritsu is tough and ambitious. Mio is timid and determined, and Mugi, who is admittedly the flattest of the characters during the entirety of the 13 episodes, is still the sweetest out of the four. The combination of all these personalities works well, and any of the characters could be paired up with one another with a resulting chemistry that doesn't feel out of place. With that said, even though it's a comedy, the series still pushes characterization of the girls, even if it deviates from the sunshine and rainbows of the moe aesthetic. One of my favorite episodes was the one where Ritsu became jealous that a character named Nodoka was hanging out with Mio when she wasn't. Ritsu and Mio had been longtime friends, which led the headstrong Ritsu to basically crash all their conversations and annoy Mio. These interactions wouldn't have worked if the characters didn't have these defined personalities at this point, and I like that the series did take time to not only create tension, but establish the characters so when said tension was there, you actually cared. The other character traits and flaws show themselves mostly in the form of comedy. A lot of the plot struggles are derived entirely from Yui being an idiot.
ありがとうございました。
いえ。ああ、お代の方5000円になります。
え？お金取るの？ゆい、やってみるか。私？でも、歌そんなに上手くないし、私で務まるかどうかわかんないっていうか。じゃあいいや。ごめん、歌いたいです。
じゃあ C、A マイナー7、D マイナー7、G7 って弾いてみて。はいはい。
どうしたの？忘れた。
Surprisingly, I thought the whole nearly mentally challenged aspect of her character would grow thin, but I think it works out for the series because although the other characters tolerate the stupidity, Yui does grow as a character and become a tad less dumb by the end of it, with a more defined outlook on the music club than she began with. Now, the aspects of the series that do grow thin show themselves pretty quickly. I think this is because K-On! Is a slice of life, but there's episodes that hit and there's other episodes that really miss. Episode 2 is devoted entirely to Yui buying a guitar, with the theme of the episode being friendship among the 4 girls. But this message is only really given at the end of the episode, with the bulk of it being shenanigans and short montages of the girls doing cute things. The same could be said for the 2 beach episodes. I think the worst episode was the Christmas episode. The series had a chance to do something special with the concept of Christmas and how we use it to bond with friends and family, but the series squanders this opportunity with an overabundance of hijinks, and the episode just being bland. To be fair, an argument could certainly be made that our Christmas breaks are boring, and K-On!, A Slice of Life, should reflect that, but I think there's a problem with having an episode concept that bores the audience, no matter how relatable it could be. Besides being a slice of life, I think that a big contributing factor to the series' flaws is the direction being all over the place. Sometimes it just exists, other times it's bad, and every so often it's great. As I previously said, the series never goes as far as to feel disjointed, but there's a clear divide between the quality of some episodes. One of the only things that remains consistent throughout the episodes is the quality of the voice work and voice direction. It's very good, and for the first time ever, I was actually able to differentiate the voices for all the characters, as I usually can't, and they blend together. A high point of the voice direction is when Yui goes through an entire episode having lost her voice. A high point in the visual direction would easily have to be the layout of the school, where the school does very good shots of the area, and by the final episode, you can mentally find your way around parts of the school to the room where the light music club actually is. As you can see, there's merit here, and I'll be honest and say that I didn't think there would be this much of it. I was pleasantly surprised when the anime didn't devolve into pandering garbage. That's not to say it doesn't pander, however, and this is an interesting point I want to talk about. K-On! Is a series with fan service, but not the traditional fan service with tits and ass everywhere. Yeah, there's beach episodes and a bath scene, but the overall focus isn't just put on servicing the male demographic. K-On! Services moe fans, and that's pretty much where it stops. The good thing about this is that it's always worked into the show naturally, and usually relates to the characters as best it can. It's also just humorous, which also helps.
麦ちゃんって眉毛太いよね。
ええ、実はこれたくあんなの。
はい。はい。おもろい。
I think the lesson I've taken away from watching K-On! Is to not fall victim to mob mentality or tribalism. I didn't judge the show before I saw it, that's still impossible in my mind, but it did have a weird stigma attached to it because of everything I heard people say about it, and that was totally unfair. K-On! Is by no means an excellent show, and I usually don't talk about number ratings during these videos, but I'm in between giving this a 5 or a 6, leaning towards a 6 because I really did like it. It has its low points, but there's a lot to be enjoyed if you go into this with the right mindset, considering its context and intent. There's certainly something to be said about how a slice of life featuring high school girls didn't bore me to death or annoy me with its stupidity. It's a show that fits its genre well. It's funny and its comedy works because it's not contrived, and the laughs fit more into confined gags than anything else. Yui and Ritsu's sumo impressions come to mind as an example. Its narrative works because although basic, it does have the elements necessary to tell a story within a structured format. At this point, I'd have no problem recommending K-On!, and the only thing I have left to say is... Mio is the best girl.